Welcome to Get Sleepy, where we listen, we relax, and we drift into a peaceful night's rest. My name is Thomas, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Tonight, we'll settle into a special collection of cozy stories told from the warmth and safety of a little winter cabin. So, if you haven't already, allow yourself to picture it. A quiet retreat, tucked away in snowy woods, where the world outside feels distant and still. A crackling fire glows at the heart of the cabin. Soft blankets and pillows wait to welcome you. Here, you are safe, warm, and deeply at ease. Take a slow breath and imagine yourself sinking into that space. You might be lying back on a comfortable sofa or resting under a fluffy quilt in bed. Perhaps you're sipping something warm or simply enjoying the gentle hush of the fire. And if sleep finds you while we're together tonight, that's not only allowed, it's encouraged. So, let's begin our story. Sarah lives in a small, wooden cabin at the edge of a forest. It's the kind of place that feels timeless, quiet, simple, and full of warmth. Tonight, the air outside is crisp and cold, but inside, everything glows with comfort. She sits in her favorite rocking chair by the window, her right foot tapping softly against the wooden floorboards as she rocks back and forth. From where she sits, she can see the winter sky slowly darkening, the pale light fading into shades of silver and blue. Her cabin feels especially welcoming at this time of year. Across the room, the brick fireplace burns steadily, filling the space with a golden glow. She listens to the firewood crackle, the pops and hisses blending into a calming rhythm, like a lullaby only nature knows how to sing. Earlier in the afternoon, Sarah prepared a pot of hot spice cider. It's been simmering on the stove in the kitchen, filling the air with a gentle fragrance of apple, cinnamon, and orange peel. The scent mingles beautifully with the smoky aroma of the fire. Together, they create a perfume that seems to wrap itself around the entire cabin. Beside the hearth, her old record player turns slowly, filling the background with a soft, familiar tune. It's one of those songs that reminds her of winters long ago, nights spent indoors, reading by lamplight, or sitting with family, while snow fell quietly outside. Humming along, Sarah rises from her rocking chair. Her thick, hand-knit socks glide soundlessly across the floorboards as she steps toward the fire. She tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, then takes the iron poker from its stand. Leaning forward, she gently nudges the glowing logs. The embers spark and flare, sending a tiny trail of smoke spiraling upward through the chimney. Satisfied, she replaces the poker and dusts her hands together, brushing away the fine ash. The fire answers with a burst of warmth, filling the room with even more golden light. When Sarah turns back to the window, she notices snow has begun to fall. Outside, the world has softened. Flakes drift from the sky, some large and fluffy, others small and quick, dancing their way toward the ground. The snow covers the trees, the forest floor, and the path that winds down to the frozen lake. Sarah's heart lifts at the sight. Snow always brings her a feeling of wonder, as though the world is being gently renewed. Each snowflake seems like a gift, falling silently from the sky, reminding her of the beauty in stillness. This is what the Danes call hygge, a sense of deep coziness, of contentment and well-being. Sarah loves the idea of hygge. For her, it means simple pleasures, a flickering candle, a woolen blanket, a favorite book, a warm drink shared with a friend. On the shelf by the window, several candles glow softly, their light golden and steady. They were made by a neighbor, using coconut wax and natural scents, lavender, cedar, vanilla. Sarah lights them every evening in winter, enjoying the way they bring both brightness and peace. Now, with the fire burning strong and the snow falling outside, she feels wrapped in a cocoon of warmth. She moves back to her rocking chair, cradles a pillow against her chest, and lets her gaze rest on the falling snow. The world outside may be cold, but here inside the cabin, everything is calm, safe, and filled with gentle joy. In winter, candles are not only comforting, but practical too, handy in case of power outages, and of course, for that homey, glowing atmosphere. There's a wonderful sense of community where Sarah lives. She and her neighbors may be tucked away in the mountains, far from the city, but they have everything they need right here. And in this particular moment, Sarah knows exactly what she needs: candles. She reaches for a small box of matches, resting on a wooden shelf filled with well-loved novels and old travel guides. Turning it over in her hands, she slides out a single matchstick and strikes it gently against the side of the box. With a soft hiss, the tip sparks to life. Carefully, she leans forward to light a couple of candles resting on the bricks above the fireplace. She cups her hand protectively around the wicks, shielding the tiny flames until they catch. The candles flicker, casting a soft glow across the room. But for Sarah, this is only the beginning. For true coziness, there must be more. As the record player spins into another cheerful winter tune, she makes her way over to the wide window. Along the sill are tall, taper candles resting in simple metal holders. She strikes another match. The sharp scent of smoke fills her senses, followed by the soft warmth of firelight. One by one, she lights each candle, cupping her hand around the flame to protect it from the chill that seeps faintly through the glass. She can feel the coolness of the window against the back of her hand, and at the same time, the warmth of the flame at her palm. When the final candle is lit, she steps back and takes in the sight. The room now glows with layers of golden light, candles on the hearth, candles on the sill, the steady flame of the fireplace. This, she thinks, is hygge. After admiring the glow for a moment longer, she remembers the cider simmering on the stove. The scent of apple and cinnamon calls to her, drifting gently down the hall. She follows the aroma, her steps soft and unhurried. The kitchen is one of Sarah's favorite rooms in the cabin. Its shelves are lined with warm colors and touches of nature. A trail of English ivy drapes across the top of the cupboards, adding a burst of green to the space. In the corner sits a small Norfolk pine tree, potted and proud, its needles reaching upward like tiny winter stars. By the back wall, there's a polished wooden countertop that wraps around two sides of the room. A door nearby opens onto the back porch, now blanketed in fresh, powdery snow. In the counter, a gap has been left for the stove. On the back burner, a small pot simmers quietly, the cider within releasing gentle curls of steam into the air. The soft bubbling is almost like a whisper, joining the chorus of the crackling fire and the quiet music that still drifts faintly from the record player in the living room. Sarah leans over the pot, breathing in deeply. The sweetness of apple, the warmth of cinnamon, and the brightness of orange peel rise to meet her, comforting and inviting. She smiles, already anticipating the first sip. The stove glows faintly beneath the pot, its flame steady and low. A thin curl of steam rises gracefully upward, carrying with it the fragrance of spiced cider. Sarah leans in and inhales deeply. The sweet, seasonal aroma instantly brings a smile to her face. Still wearing her fuzzy socks, so soft they feel like little pillows beneath her feet, she pads across the wooden floorboards. Beside the stove rests a tall ceramic vase, filled with wooden spoons, whisks, and other cooking utensils. She chooses a sturdy wooden spoon, then peers down into the pot. The cider has darkened to a rich amber. Whole cinnamon sticks drift lazily across the surface, brushing past round slices of orange that bob gently with the movement of the liquid. Billows of steam rise up and touch her cheeks, warming the tip of her nose until it no longer feels the faint winter chill. Slowly, Sarah dips the spoon into the cider and stirs. The cinnamon sticks and orange slices swirl in lazy circles, bumping against one another as though they, too, are dancing to the music playing faintly in the background. She has been simmering this pot of cider for hours, waiting patiently for the flavors to blend just right. Now, she feels eager to taste it. Scooping up a spoonful, she blows gently across the surface. The steam parts in tiny curls before her breath, and then, carefully, she takes a sip. The warm liquid flows over her tongue and down into her stomach, filling her with instant comfort. She murmurs softly. It is exactly as she hoped, sweet and spicy, the perfect balance of fruit and warmth. Satisfied, she lowers the stove's flame, keeping it just high enough to preserve the cider's heat for later. She knows she will want more before the night is over. Next, she opens a cabinet to her left. The door creaks faintly on its hinges, as though the old wood remembers every winter that has passed. Inside is a collection of mugs, each one holding a story of its own. She searches carefully, running her fingers along the handles until she finds the one she has been waiting for. It is her favorite winter mug, shaped like a little boot. Painted around the rim are snow-tipped hills, and delicate white snowflakes scatter across the glossy green surface. Along the base, the name of a Polish city is written in curling letters, a happy reminder of the winter market where she bought it years ago. She pauses for a moment, brushing her finger gently over the painted name. Her mind drifts back to that festive trip, wandering through bright stalls, tasting sweet pastries, and listening to the laughter of families gathered together under strings of lights. Holding this mug always brings those memories close again. Carefully, Sarah takes a ladle from the vase of utensils and dips it into the pot. The warm cider rises, glistening in the dim kitchen light. A thin stream trickles back into the pot as she steadies her hand. Then she pours the rest into her boot-shaped mug until it is filled nearly to the brim. The steam rises in tiny clouds, carrying the scent of apples, cinnamon, and orange peel straight into her senses. Placing the ladle down on the counter, she cradles the mug with both hands and steps out of the kitchen. The soft sounds of the crackling fireplace and the gentle hum of the record player call her back toward the living room. But when she reaches the front door, at the far end of the hall, she pauses. The door is tall and wooden, carved with simple lines and fitted with a panel of stained glass at the top. Through the glass, Sarah can see only shifting light, the pale reflection of the snowy night outside. She knows that beyond it lies her wide wraparound porch, with steps that lead down to the fresh, untouched blanket of snow. Curiosity rises in her chest. She wants to step outside, to feel the crisp night air, to see how the snow has transformed her little corner of the world. But first, she lifts the mug to her face. Closing her eyes, she breathes in the warm fragrance. Cinnamon, orange, apple, it is like inhaling pure comfort. Then she takes a sip. The cider flows warmly through her body, spreading down her throat and into her chest until she feels wrapped in its heat. Perfect, she whispers to herself. With her free hand, she rests her fingers on the cool brass of the doorknob and turns it slowly. The hinges creak softly as the door opens. Immediately, the night greets her. A wave of cool, crisp air sweeps inside, brushing across her cheeks. She shivers lightly, but it is not unpleasant. It is invigorating. The cold makes the warmth of the mug feel even sweeter in her hands. Stepping carefully, Sarah moves out onto the porch. Behind her, she pulls the door closed, trapping the cabin's warmth safely inside. The world outside is hushed. Snow has fallen thick and soft across the ground, blanketing the earth in silence. The trees wear heavy coats of white, their branches bending ever so slightly under the weight. From the porch, Sarah can see the forest stretching into the distance, touched by moonlight and starlight alike. She takes another sip of her cider and lets the night wrap around her. The air is sharp but clean, filling her lungs with freshness. The snow glimmers faintly in the glow from her cabin windows, and for a long, still moment, Sarah simply stands there, watching, breathing, and smiling. Inside, Sarah feels grateful for the oversized cream turtleneck she's wearing. It's made of wool, and she knitted it herself last winter. Now, it's keeping her perfectly cozy as she steps into the brisk air. She walks to the edge of the porch, moving past the overhang of the roof, where snow has gathered along the wooden railing. Out in the open sky, fresh flakes fall gently. Sarah reaches out her hand and lets a few land softly on her palm. They melt almost instantly, only to be replaced by new ones. She lets out a small, contented sigh, then returns her hand to the warmth of the mug she's holding. The snow, drifting lazily across the landscape, looks magical to her. In that moment, she feels completely at peace, as though she has stepped into a winter fairy tale. The The distant mountains are capped with white, their highest peaks snowbound for weeks, yet appearing even more divine under the shifting light of the storm. The tall pine trees nearby stand strong, their dark needles brushed with snow as though dusted with sugar. In front of her house stretches a large hilly field. In summer, it bursts with wildflowers, but now it's blanketed in a sparkling layer of fresh snow. Sarah imagines inviting her neighbors over, gathering in the circle of logs she once set around a fire pit. She pictures everyone bundled in scarves and coats, sipping cider together, their laughter mingling with the crackle of the flames. Her thoughts drift back to her childhood, when she lived in the city. Each year, after the first snowfall, children from the neighborhood would flock to the park. They built snowmen and snow angels until the games inevitably turned into playful snowball fights. Sarah smiles at the memory of her mother sliding thick socks over her hands whenever gloves weren't ready, so she could still go outside to join in the fun. The thought makes her chuckle quietly. Now the snow begins to fall heavier. The sky darkens, and she realizes a storm is approaching. Taking one last look at the tranquil white field, the pine trees, and the rugged mountains, now fading behind a curtain of thick, gray clouds, Sarah turns back toward her cabin. Opening the front door, she's greeted by a rush of warm air that makes her instantly relax. She steps inside, closes the heavy wooden door, and slides the sturdy lock into place, just in case strong winds arrive with the storm. Snowflakes cling to her sweater, and she shakes them off with a little laugh. Her boots thud softly against the floor as she kicks them off. She heads into the living room and sinks into the thick, plush sofa. There's a tartan pillow that matches the drapes. She fluffs it with both hands before settling into a cozy position, her legs tucked neatly beneath her to keep them off the cool floorboards. Taking another soothing sip of cider, she feels warmth spreading through her body once again. The sofa cradles her in comfort, and the crackling fire glows invitingly across the room. After one more sip, her mug is finally empty. She sets it aside with a smile, already thinking she'll pour herself another cup later, once she's done soaking in this perfect winter evening. Sarah bends forward and gently slides her empty mug across the coffee table. As she leans, her eyes fall on the woven basket tucked beneath the table, full of half-finished knitting projects. She reaches down, grasps its wooden handle, and feels the rough grain of the wood beneath her fingers. Lifting the basket up onto the sofa, she begins to thumb through her projects, one by one, deciding which piece to work on tonight. Winter, with its long dark evenings and quiet snow-filled days, is the perfect time for knitting. Sarah often finds herself drawn to it year-round, sometimes even during warm summer afternoons, when she prepares scarves, hats, and sweaters in anticipation of colder days. Tonight, she chooses to continue a woolen hat she has been crafting in olive green. The yarn, spun from Shetland sheep in the Scottish Isles, is durable and warm, perfect for the kind of weather she now sees swirling outside her window. She settles deeper into the sofa, holding her needles carefully. Yarn wraps around her right index finger as she begins her rhythm. Stitch by stitch, loop by loop. Knit, knit, purl, purl. The pattern plays in her head like a quiet mantra, steady and soothing. With each movement, the hat grows longer, shaping itself into a piece she imagines wearing on a frosty walk, or perhaps giving as a gift to someone dear. Around her, the cabin feels wrapped in its own cocoon of warmth. The fire crackles in the stone fireplace, casting an amber glow across the room. Outside, the wind howls faintly, mingling with the gentle sweep of snow against the glass. On the record player, a soft tune spins, filling the space with a calm rhythm that blends seamlessly with the crackle of firewood. A candle flickers on the windowsill, its flame reflected against a backdrop of swirling flakes. Sarah's senses soak it all in. The smell of wood smoke. The gentle scratch of wool yarn against her fingertips. The weight of the tartan pillow tucked against her side. She hums softly to the music, her needles clicking in time, and a sense of deep relaxation spreads over her. Knitting alone always soothes her, but in this moment with the fire, the snow, and the music, It feels like a complete winter therapy, a kind of healing ritual. She imagines, for a moment, stepping back into the kitchen to pour another cup of steaming cider, rich with cinnamon and orange. But for now, she's content to remain nestled here, working stitch by stitch while the storm builds outside. Time drifts gently by. The sky outside the wide casement windows darkens from gray-blue into the deeper shades of evening. Snow falls heavier, blanketing the field, the pines, and the mountains beyond. The world outside grows silent, save for the whisper of wind and the hiss of snow against the cabin's walls. Sarah props her head on the tartan pillow, draws her knees up, and finally sets her knitting aside. Her eyes drift closed as she listens to the symphony around her, the record's soft tune, the fire's steady crackle, and the winter storm whistling softly beyond her walls. It all blends into one safe, cozy harmony. In this moment, nothing else matters. The stresses of the day fade completely, replaced by a blissful stillness, as though the cabin itself is holding her in an embrace. Wrapped in warmth, Sarah lets herself drift further into contentment, knowing she may sit here, knitting, dreaming, or simply being, until bedtime gently calls. Once Sarah feels ready to get up from the sofa, she bends forward and slides her empty mug across the coffee table in front of her. As she leans over, her eyes fall on a woven basket tucked neatly beneath the table, filled with knitting projects. She grasps it by its handle, feeling the rough texture of the wood in her hands, and lifts it onto the sofa beside her. One by one, she thumbs through her projects, deciding which piece to continue working on tonight. With the cold weather keeping her indoors more often, winter is the perfect time for knitting, Sarah thinks. Making warm and soft garments has always been one of her favorite pastimes. In fact, she often finds herself knitting even in the warmer months, preparing scarves and sweaters in anticipation of autumn and winter, when she can wear them herself or gift them to others. For now, she settles on a winter hat she has been crafting from wool imported from the Shetland Islands. She loves this particular Scottish wool for its durability and its ability to withstand all kinds of weather, whether rain or snow. Holding 2 knitting needles in her hands, she begins to work stitch by stitch, the yarn looped carefully around her right index finger as she guides the strand across the left needle. Knit, knit, purl, purl. She repeats the words quietly in her head as she falls into rhythm. The olive green hat is already halfway finished, and she plans to spend the rest of the evening knitting it to perfection. From her spot on the sofa, she can enjoy the warmth of the fire and the lovely view of the falling snow outside. She hears the wind sweeping around the cabin, the firewood crackling and popping in the fireplace, and the soft tunes coming from the record player in the corner. Candles flicker against the window pane, twinkling like stars against the backdrop of a winter wonderland. Sarah feels completely relaxed. Knitting on its own is soothing, but tonight, the combination of music, fire, snow, and candlelight creates a full therapeutic winter retreat, melting away every trace of stress. Perhaps later she will return to the kitchen to pour another aromatic cup of warm cider, but for now, she sinks deeper into the comfort of the sofa. She props her head against a tartan pillow, tucks her knees beneath her, and closes her eyes, listening to the ambient sounds around her. The wintry mix of music, wind, and fire blends together, wrapping the room in a safe and cozy atmosphere. Sarah lets her senses take over. She rubs the chunky yarn between her fingers, hums along with the melody on the record player, and then shifts her attention to the sound of the fireplace and the whistling wind outside. All these sensations come together so magically that she wishes she could bottle them up and keep them forever, to open whenever she needs to relax. In this moment, nothing else matters. All her worries fade, replaced by blissful coziness and utter contentment. Soon, the gray-blue sky outside her windows deepens, fading darker and darker as the snow continues to fall. The cabin feels warmer, softer, and even more inviting as night slowly takes hold. Here, Sarah might remain until bedtime calls. It is late November, and the overcast mountain sky adds an even cozier touch to her afternoon. She sits in her living room, gazing out through large casement windows as a few dark brown leaves cascade gently past. On the side table next to her sofa, a yellow-tinted lamp with mosaic glass glows softly, casting golden light across the room. Beside it rests a bookmark nestled halfway through, and a fresh cup of chai tea topped with steamed milk. Sarah reflects on her quiet morning inside the cozy mountain cabin she calls home. Outside, the weather is cold and brisk, the sky already hinting at an approaching snowstorm. Inside, the fireplace fills the air with warmth and the rich aroma of oak and maple logs waiting their turn to burn. The fire's steady crackle reassures her, wrapping her in a sense of peace. Earlier that morning, she had busied herself with small household tasks, sweeping the wooden floors with her corn broom, folding clean laundry, taking out the compost and recycling, and dusting everything from the hallway credenza to the picture frames and candle holders that decorate the living room. With her chores complete, Sarah now gives herself permission to simply rest.